Hi, welcome to the Crown Hill Podcast. This is Patrick Sobecki. I'm here with Mark Luby and a special guest today, my wife. Can you say hi?
Hi.
This is Tina. She's my wife. She's the best, in case you were wondering. Mark, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Our hope and our plan was to have Tina and Hannah on today. Hannah's feeling a little under the weather. So prayers for her by the time this is released. I don't know how she'll be doing, but
hopefully better.
Yes. Prayer works in crazy ways, so just pray.
I also think that prayer works back in time.
Yeah, totally.
Because God's all powerful and above time.
Yeah.
So, you know,
what is
5 years in the future, if you're listening to this, still pray for her.
So we're going to do a little bit of an episode with our wives and introduce them because, as Patrick said, Tina, you're wonderful. We both say our wives are the best.
Except I'm right.
Yeah. Okay. No.
Stop it. Hannah's wonderful.
We can't get into a weird dispute on this podcast. We've joked, though, in church planting. We joked when we got assessed. We're like, I think one of their takeaways was that our wives were awesome. And I was like, maybe they just want our wives to church plant and they don't really care about us. And so, which, if so, they're wise men. So
Tina and I do not.
So long story short, Hannah is sick, so she's not going to be joining us. But Patrick, what are we doing today?
Well, Tina, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Yeah?
You know, got some coffee in me. Ready to go.
Yeah. I'm so excited to talk about discipleship with you today. Because, you just got lunch with a lady. Mm-hmm. Like, a young woman who you've, been meeting with for, a year. Yeah. So it's, it's just a very real thing to you.
Yes.
And that was my underhanded way to... Not underhanded.
No.
My covert way.
Underhanded, Patrick. Just own it.
Covert way of introducing our topic, which is... We're going to talk about discipleship today, but we wanted to ask Tina, just because she has so much good experience talking about what it means to disciple women particularly, and how we're dreaming about that looks in our church. So, thanks for coming on today, Tina.
Yeah, it's fun to be here.
Yeah, I think one of the places we talked about this conversation starting, and I might talk a little bit more at the beginning here than normal, because Mark is eating a steak.
Very rare steak.
Yes, it was a delayed lunch, as it was a unique day, so...
And honestly, we just felt like it was such a realistic vision of our life with Mark.
Yeah, we were deciding, do I eat a steak on the podcast? And one, I was hungry and needed lunch. And two, we said, okay.
It's the most Mark thing he could do while recording a podcast. Mark with his rare steak and Patrick with his black coffee.
I was joking that this episode would be sponsored by the Costco Business Center. And if you don't know what Costco Business Center is, it's pretty much where Costco shops.
It's the best way to describe it.
They sell a chuck roll there, and it's basically the front quarter shoulder of a cow, and it's 22 pounds. So you can actually just get it at a regular Costco. I tried calling, but it was slightly more expensive at a regular Costco.
Twist.
It might be a thing they bring out from the back, but...
So this ends our Costco section of the podcast. Which is great. But we just wanted to talk about discipleship. One of the things we've shared about that we want our church to have, as we've thought about culture and how we want to relate to one another, is this idea of church as family. Because you see this pattern in the New Testament, and I think Paul's such a good example of it, as the church as spiritual fathers and mothers caring for spiritual brothers and sisters. And Mark and I have spent some time talking about discipleship in general, which was a lot of fun. The idea that we're being shaped by our interactions with each other more into the image of Christ.
Yeah.
But we wanted to get into the weeds, and Tina, you're really good at just getting so helpful and practical in a way that's so good for Mark.
A gift of wisdom.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
I've joked before that Tina and I are the embodiment of the difference between knowledge and wisdom. It's just I just know a lot of stuff, and Tina knows how to do way more stuff. So it's really the best.
I was going to throw in one more thing. This is going to be part of conversations around discipleship.
Yeah.
We had a general conversation of discipleship, but we also want to have some conversations around intergenerational discipleship. So we'll probably have my dad, Jim Luby, on at some point and talk about that. But then also just this idea, of discipleship with women in the church. And so, Patrick, what's your first question for Tina?
I mean, as you think about the ideal setup for discipling women in the church, what would you have in mind? And that's like the least helpful question to you in the world, because you're like, no, I don't want to talk about ideals. I want to talk about what we can actually do.
I don't want to talk about ideals. Yeah, practically, because I think the hard part is I've never been discipled through the church, one-on-one by an older woman. I've always been discipled, by the women around me, but we didn't necessarily go through the same church. So just thinking about in our context, and as we're thinking about what we hope our church to look like, I think ideally, like, I would love to see just boldness from both the younger women and the older women to take a step of faith and ask someone to meet with them. And just to trust that, like, discipleship is something that is good, that the Lord's called us to, and that asking for an older woman to go get coffee with you is not as intimidating as it needs to be. Like, we kind of joke about, like, asking someone on the first date. Like, it doesn't mean you're going to marry the person. It's just a first date. So in the same way, it's like, if you meet an older woman, get time with her, see what knowledge, like, she has that she'd be willing to share with you, and if it works out for you to continue meeting together, getting in the Word together, that's great. But it doesn't have to be this big, like, are we compatible? Does she like me? Like, I feel like it's just like, she's older than you, she has more experience than you, like, even one step more. Like, what can she teach you about the Lord? And it doesn't have to be this huge thing. Like, that's just what discipleship is walking towards Jesus together and getting, just building one another up and having help in a lot of ways of, like, how do I walk the Christian faith well, and having an older woman to be able to share from her experiences. And so I feel like even as we're starting a church, like, gaining people and our core team, just being able to take the risk of asking to get time together and ask the big questions of, what has the Lord done in your life? What have you learned? And what are you learning right now? Like, that's discipleship. You don't have to know the whole Bible.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
I can tell you very, very little of what's in Micah. Rest of the Bible I got. No.
It's okay. That's why we keep Barker.
Exactly. It's the whole body.
One question I have for you, Tina, is how has discipleship looked different at different stages in your life, both in terms of receiving discipleship and intentionally investing in the lives of other women?
Yeah. This is a good question. So I was first discipled, by, like, all technical terms, when I was in middle school by my brother's high school secretary, if that makes sense. Because she helped lead, like, the FCA for the high school students, and my brother connected her to me, and she, like, started Bible study with me and my friends, and
was that Karen Green?
Karen Green.
Ugh,
if she ever
Karen.
listens to this, shout out. And then went to high school ministry at a church and got connected to a girl who volunteered there, Roxanne. Shout out to Roxanne. She discipled me for a little bit. And at the time, like, I didn't know either of those things were discipleship. They were just being really intentional with me, asking good questions, reading the Bible, helping me just navigate, like, what does it look like to love the Lord and be a student. And so that felt really practical. And then going into college, I got involved with Navigators right away because of my brothers. Thanks, brothers. And that one, I mean, it took longer to find someone who would meet with me regularly, but it happened, and then college, I feel like, pretty consistently was met with by either someone on staff in Navigators or an older student. And it really started changing when I went part-time on staff and had a child, had Beatrice, like, because I was just so less available, that I don't think I would not say I'd been discipled in, like, the same way I had been before. I hadn't been meeting weekly with a woman, but the sweet thing about motherhood is there's so many mothers who are one step ahead of me or multiple steps ahead of me that even just getting time with them every once in a while, which was my capacity, was life-giving and felt like the Lord is still bringing women into my life to help me along in my walk. And so I'd say the same about discipling someone. I mean, I didn't start discipling anyone until college when I started joining NABS, and it's a lot easier when it's considered your full-time job and I get to do it for fun.
You were doing it before.
Yeah.
You were on staff. So.
Yeah, I did it as a student, and then I went on staff because I love discipleship. Like, that was my main reason to become a navigator, was so I could disciple women full-time. And then, yeah, going to part-time and having B, granted, it was also COVID, so it just looked different. But there was still, like, at least one girl that I could meet with every other week. Shout out to Eden. It's just, like, yeah, understanding of my limitations at the time and willing to come over to my house and see me, like, in the throes of new motherhood. And I'm like, that's what life on life is. Like, these, like, after Eden, then I was like Faith and Elise and some other girls that I would just get one-off time with, and they just get to see me at home with the children, trying to figure out how to wrangle them and still have deep spiritual conversations. And I think it's sweet just for them even to see that picture into motherhood, and that discipleship doesn't stop. And if anything, it's more so like I'm discipling my children now too. So, like, my children can call it like a 2-on-1, really, if it's a girl and Beatrice, you know, not just 1-on-1.
It's just good.
Well, B was only like 1 at the time, but yeah.
But even I think of the times when you were pregnant with our second Pax, and we're just so sick. Faith was coming over and hanging out with you, taking care of Beatrice, and it was like this awesome time of like discipling her, even though it was like babysitting in a lot of ways.
It was 100%. For like a month, I couldn't get out of bed without getting sick, and so she would come say hi, and I'd ask her week was, and then that was it. I'd go back to sleep, and she was with Beatrice, and that was her discipleship. And she was gracious in that, but again, that's like real life. Like, I was just, really struggling with growing a baby, and so, but she was gracious, and like, she in a way was discipling Beatrice in that time too, and I trusted Faith in that because I knew her. And
I think that even speaks to like what your like boldness is of like, it doesn't always need to look like getting coffee once a week.
Oh yeah,
it's like, oh, you were like, Faith was babysitting an 18-month-old and like getting discipled.
I think that's where it's helpful to have this conversation around discipleship and to realize, like, even what are we saying when we say discipleship? Because we kind of define discipleship as the whole of life of following Christ. But we also use discipleship in a shorthand way to say, follow me as I follow Christ. And so, like, if you look in the Bible, John has disciples. And so, like, the disciples of John. And so this idea of, like, hey, there's, like, this follow me as I follow Christ. And so when we're talking about discipleship, it's ultimately to Christ. I'm just giving this context in case someone has a different background. And like, what do they even mean by discipleship? Part of it is what we're trying to say is it's entering into an intentional relationship with someone where you say, like, hey, I may be one step ahead of you, or I may be one step ahead in one area, because I think it's very possible, like, we disciple each other, but then to say, like, let's take these next steps. And so that's when you're talking about, like, even that, like, really that formal discipleship relationship where you're saying, hey, this is our intention in this relationship. And I think part of what we want to do as a church is we want to raise the temperature of intentionality when it comes to discipleship. Because discipleship happens, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And it's part of what we do, but we're really saying, hey, we want to be very intentional and purposeful when we think about discipleship.
I mean, and I think that's just really good to remember of as we talk about discipleship, it's, this bigger picture of, what does it mean to live life with one another, the way you said it, toward Jesus, like toward that picture of what it means to be fully human and perfectly human and godly because of that.
Well, I mean, I just keep going back to Faith right now. But she is just, it's been a sweet example of how, yeah, through time with, like, she took care of Beatrice, all of that, part of our core team. And then now, like, we're still getting time together and realizing that that's sweet discipleship of life on life. Like, I get to see her once a week for a meal. I get to hear how life's going. And then we also try to get time just together, talk about how reading the Bible's going. Like, what are we learning? How are we reaching coworkers? And by we, she's her coworkers. And things like that. And so it's just been sweet to be, the first time we sat down in this season of life, be like, wow, like, I'm not on staff with NABS, you're not a college student, and we're just doing this. Like, this is our life. And we just want to, like, grow in our walks with the Lord together. It was just a really sweet, exciting thing for me to be like, yes, like, this happens outside of, like, college campus. But it's so important on college campus, but just to see, like, oh, it's meant for so much more of our life than just that one season.
I think that's great. I really appreciate your intentionality in that, Tina, that you've just been, that's part of what you just naturally do is you are intentional in the lives of others. And I think one of the things that you're sharing about, even how it's changed through time, I think sometimes people feel like if they're in the season where they're busy, where they're a young mom, they can't do it. But I think even part of your story is, no, it just looks different.
Yes.
And in a lot of ways, like when our families are in this young kid season, on one hand, you're like, oh man, like my capacity is so different. But on the other hand, it's like, hey, can I come over? It's like, yeah, pretty much most any day, because from noon to 3, my child is sleeping, and so either my wife or I are here. And so it's like the openness actually too, and this is, I think, part of our vision in church ministry is we are really thinking, how do we disciple people at different stages? How do we disciple single people in their 20s? Part of it is like, just welcome into the family. Like, we want people to be in our homes. We want people to be able to take care of our kids. And that for me was a hugely influential thing as a single guy, was being with families who allowed me to be a part of their family. And whether I'm just running to Costco, shout out to Costco, or whether, with Brian Hanneman, or whether I'm, whatever I'm doing, it's like even just being with someone in their families. And I think some of the most formative moments of discipleship could be seeing someone discipline their child, or pray with their child, or hug their child, or sing a song to their child. And it's like, those are deep formative discipleship moments. And so I think even just to remember that too. Sometimes it's when we think we don't have capacity, it's also thinking of like, maybe your lack of capacity is actually one of the greatest opportunities to invite someone else in, because it's not just like, I can only give. It's like, well, you have needs. And we've experienced that having a son. Like, we know we have needs, and people have blessed us tremendously when they take care of William or come and just help out with some dishes or whatever it is. Like that's been a huge part of our ability to grow in relationships as a church.
Honestly, just to have another human for my child to play with, that's not me, is a blessing. And so, but even like what you were saying with single friends in our lives, having our single friends call us and be like, hey, can I come over, is the biggest blessing. Because I'm not always like aware of like, oh, I should invite them over this time. Like, I think about it, but when they invite themselves, yes, please. Shout out to Eden, who did that, and was like, can I just come over and hang out? And we're like, yes, please. Like, I want you to be in my life. And I didn't always think about like, oh, I'm free on this Friday night to watch a movie with you, but if you're available, please come. And so just being able to have that life on life together. And again, it takes like boldness for you to trust that when we ask or say like, we want you in our house, to believe that we want you in our house with us.
And like to believe that, like, because when you're lonely, it's so easy to just be like, ah, man, I'm the problem. And like to like try and like almost like wait on people without like really, it's just easy to be like stuck in that, because it's like, but I'm lonely. And I'm just like the best advice, I think, in so many ways is don't get tired of initiating.
Yeah.
Is like, that's my take on Galatians 6:10. Do not grow weary of initiating, especially with those of the household of faith. The original is don't grow tired of doing good.
Yeah.
Especially with those of the household of faith. But I'm like, man, initiating, especially as a single person who's maybe moved to a new city, is trying to figure out what life looks like. I think that's like great with friends, but it's also super helpful for the young families. And I think that's the way it becomes really healthy to be like single and not lonely and not alone. Is this what you were saying? Is like you initiated with a family so much that you moved in with one.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Like, I'm like, that's the ultimate form of a single person initiating in a lot of ways. Yeah. And
they were very intentional with me.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's the way like we feel, and I know other young families that are in similar situations to us feel. It's like, man, I would love to hang out with more of the people in my life that like are either unmarried or married and don't have kids, and like whatever situation, it's like, oh man, I would love to get time with you. It's just so hard for me mentally to like have the space to do that. Because it's like, well, I have my job and my wife and my kids, and like that just mentally is a lot of space already. And like taking care of 2 young kids as a mom is just like, it's been the joke for us that like I'm the only one that can cook in the house because when Tina tries to cook, the kids are just crawling all over her.
Yeah. Somewhat of a blessing.
Yeah.
So that you cook.
Totally. And it's just like, it's not, you can.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the question.
My capacity is taken up by children.
Yeah.
Until someone asks to enter in, and I'm like, yes, there's space for that. I just didn't have room to ask you to come.
Yep.
And like not to push the burden off myself, because there's times where I want to be intentional about inviting others in. And like that's our desire, we do it. But there's just times like I don't think it's a burden for someone to ask to come. Or to like get time with me, and I'll be like, yes, let me make room in my schedule for you. It might have to be 2 or 3 weeks out, but yes, let's do it. And
I got a question for you guys, if I can throw it in.
Yeah.
All right, so question. We're talking a lot about the just very relational, organic side of discipleship. How do you think about the intentional growth and transformation in discipleship when we're also presenting such a highly relational vision of discipleship? Because sometimes people think discipleship and it's like, here's the booklet. And sometimes people think discipleship and it's just like, well, it's just anything, you know. And so how do you present an intentional growth or transformational growth into Christ when we're also valuing such a highly relational? And it's fine to go through a book. We might go through a book of the Bible. We might work on through some things. But like, how do you see that as you think about it, Tina?
Yeah, well, especially in the season of life where I don't necessarily have a lot of time to like prep or go through a book. A lot of it can just be intentional question asking. Like one of my favorite questions to ask is, how are you seeing your need for the gospel today? And just to ask like these questions to women just to kind of get a taste and sense of where they're at and where they're at with the Lord. I ask a lot like, how's your time with the Lord been? What's that looking like? And because finding intentional time to have a quiet time or to sit down and read your Bible can be a challenge at any stage of life, and to help process what that looks like. And I think that there's so much in just praying together, if nothing else, like just to sit and pray together. Because especially in a relational context, to be able to hear what's going on in their life and then to pray for them in that moment is priceless. And I love it when I can sit down and open up like to what I've been reading or thinking about and read that with the woman.
It's like, how many women have you read through Trusting God by Jerry Bridges with?
Oh, at least like 4.
Or like 8.
Oh.
Like, it's probably higher than that.
I don't know. Probably. I've read it a lot.
Yeah.
But that's pre-children.
Totally. But even like recently, you went through a book on grief with one of the women you were meeting with.
Yeah.
Like, you still do that occasionally as you're doing it.
Yes. And that was like, technically I was still on staff when I was doing that.
Sure.
But so now it's just like, in this new season, as we're planning a church, finding time, like I'm all for reading a book with someone or going through a book of the Bible with a woman. That's just not always realistic in certain seasons. And so...
And you have, like, you were trained by the Navigators for 4 years. Like, you were training staff women. You have a specialty in this. That it's easy for you to be intentional in a lot of ways because it's just like your intuition
Yeah.
at this point.
Second nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like if nothing else, to be able to take a verse that you read that day or that week and just to talk about it and be like, what are you seeing in this passage? Like in this one verse, or what are areas in your life that you're needing to trust the Lord more in? Because I feel like all of us can have an answer to that.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's cool to think too of, like, as I'm thinking about relational discipleship, I really do think the most important thing is if you are personally a disciple who's walking with Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you put people around you and it's natural. And so I think sometimes we can overthink how much you have to do or prepare.
Yes.
It's like, well, if you're actually walking with the Lord deeply and abiding in Christ, and that's part of your DNA, then people around you are going to get that. And it's almost like, what's the most important thing you can do is like abide in Christ and be around people and love them.
It's almost like we need to be disciples to make disciples.
It would make sense.
Logically.
Logic. It just has to be.
Yes.
That's so helpful. And just even thinking like, man, how do we see that continue to grow? Because like limited capacity, are there like ways you've seen like women do creative things with like groups of people, or like maybe like ideas or dreams you've had of like, oh man, this would be an easy way to do this with a bunch of ladies or something like that?
Yeah.
You're not committing to anything
No.
here. It's just like,
But we are going to get it in writing.
Yeah, and we will be doing this later. No, I feel like the most common thing I would do is meet with 2 or 3 girls at a time, especially if they're good friends already, so that they could be living life more intentionally outside of our time together.
Sure.
And so, yes, I'm speaking into 3 women's lives, but it's only one time versus 3 different meetings, if that makes sense. But then I think there's the added benefit of like they get to hear what they're sharing, and then they can follow up with that throughout the week more than maybe I could. So it is creating more of like a family, like sibling relationship for them. But I feel like the fun thing for women, I think men are like this possibly too, but just doing an activity together that's more, I don't know, it's just like making flower bouquets or doing something crafty together.
So Patrick and I do all the time.
I know, you guys love making
We spend
bouquets.
a lot of time arranging flowers.
And making crafts for the house.
Our men's discipleship budget is high. Okay, keep going.
I kind of wish, though. I'd take more flowers around our house. Anyways.
It's fair.
But like just doing something with our hands is an easy way for us to be able to talk more deeply. And to be able to create things is just a fun, God-given thing to be able to do together as women. I know I have a good friend who would just go on walks with women while she's like pushing her baby in a stroller while he naps, and so I don't know, it's just trying to anything that honestly is life-giving. Like what's the passion the Lord's given you? Can you bring someone alongside you and do that together and be intentional about what you're talking about during that time? But like and don't let intentional be a scary word either, right? Because it doesn't mean you have to ask the perfect question, but it's just showing that you're interested in this person's life and how they're doing in their walk with the Lord.
Yeah, because I even think about like the training we do for people to, hey, how do you start a spiritual conversation with a coworker, a neighbor, but someone who probably isn't a Christian? And I think the training that often needs to happen is, how do you continue having spiritual conversations with your friends at church? And it's like, because that should probably be a normal, not dominating. I think there's a different weird thing when you only talk about spiritual things and you don't talk about the rest of your life with someone. But like, spiritual conversations should be a normal part of our life. But it's easy to not do that.
I'd say it'd be even like clarifying which I'm sure you're fine with me doing. It's like all of your life is like in that sense like spiritual. But like if you only talk about like certain aspects of like, this is how I read my Bible, then it's like, oh well, like, are you angry? And so like the whole of life,
like, are you just checking a box right now?
Yeah, it's like the whole of life is discipleship of Christ. And so if you're just talking about like some spiritual disciplines that you do, I think that's what you're saying. Of like, then you're just cordoning it off unnecessarily.
I would even say I think it's easy for friends to not even talk about the spiritual disciplines thing.
Yeah.
Like it's easy just to be in a friendship and just keep talking about the things you love together, even if you're both Christian people together.
Or even if we both want to talk about theology.
It's so easy to just talk about theology and not ask about our spiritual health.
It's like hour-long theology conversation to be like, wait, are you loving your wife well? So we always got to make sure to go back to.
Hey, how do we how are we actually doing with the Lord?
Yeah.
Not just about him. But I think even like the fact that you keep going back to this like, oh, it's like us together looking at something. I'll do my C.S. Lewis quote because that's how he defines friendship in his book Before Loves. I think that's just so sweet to be like, oh man, when you're looking at someone and you realize someone else is next to you and you go, oh, you too? And how often that can be with Jesus. That and for me that's so helpful as a category because then discipleship isn't like come to me the sage and learn my wisdom. But it's instead like, hey, let's just do this journey toward Christ together.
And one of my favorite things in discipleship has been when one of the girls asks me a question, spiritual, like any question, but especially like theologically, and my answer is, I have no clue. Let's find out together. Like, how do we even find out that answer? Like, let's figure that out. So, I think there can be a fear of like, oh, I'm not ready to meet with someone, or I'm not ready to share what I know because I don't know anything. It's like, no, actually, you do know. You know, like, if you've been walking with the Lord, like, there's more you have to offer than what you think you do. And to be able to say, I don't know, and walk along, how do you find out answers? Or who do you go to ask these questions to? You know, like, there's just more that you have to offer than you think, and it doesn't have to be an intimidating relationship or conversation.
I think even to add to that, there's more you have to offer than you think. There's also maybe a greater need than you think. Like, we live in a society that does struggle with so much loneliness, and the value of like just being willing to be alongside someone in their life to like welcome them into your life, that's very powerful. And I think that we can undersell how significant that is. And so I think even along with that, a total agreement of you may have more to offer than you actually are seeing because you're not realizing what God has done in your life. But also you may be missing like how sweet it is to be a friend to someone, to come alongside, to be a mentor. Like, that's hugely important and valuable.
Yeah, man, the power of friendship and discipleship. I mean, even someone just asked me, like, how, as a pastor, am I thinking about friendship with the people who are in the church? And they're asking me, like, I'm like setting boundaries. And it's just helpful for me that Jesus called his disciples his friends. Like, they weren't his clients, they weren't his servants. Like, they were his friends. And that, like, if you want to talk about the sage of sages, it's like, it's Jesus. Like,
so as long as we're not elevated above Christ, we can do it, you're saying?
At least that.
But I mean, it is how we create church as family. It is how we see one another as brothers and sisters, as mothers and fathers. Like, is living life together, is sharing our wisdom what the Lord's taught us, and in humility asking other people their wisdom too.
Yeah. That's great. One thing you shared earlier, and I just want to go back to this because I think this is big. I think you were talking about meeting with multiple girls at once, and this is just kind of a funny thing for me because some of our context we've swam in. It's like when we think about discipleship, we think it has to be one-on-one. We're like, Jesus has 12, 73. You know, he has these different groups he's interacting with. He has the inner circle of Peter, James, and John. But even just thinking about that of like, yeah, it can be 1-to-1, but it doesn't have to be. And there's different reasons and different seasons. And just having that freedom of our approaches to it. There's a lot of values and different ways of engaging with people in discipleship.
Yeah.
Can I give one more pitch for the... Okay.
Costco?
Patrick said yes. It's not for Costco.
Oh, good clarification, because I would have said no.
Anyways, so I think one of the conversations we want to have in the future is intergenerational discipleship, and really thinking about, well, a couple things. I would say generational and intergenerational, which are different. So that's confusing. But intergenerational being like across generations, and generational just meaning like one person to the next. Like in the same way, like offspring, one person to the next, spiritually speaking, one person to the next. But intergenerational, like across generations. But one of the things I think I want to reinforce as a message from the very beginning of our church is we're too old. And it's like an ironic statement because we're 20s and 30s plus 0 to 3, plus my parents in their 60s. And so we're like pretty young, but unless we intentionally think about reaching down and reaching people who are, whatever that is, students younger than us, there's going to be a gap. And I think the way to set a culture for a church and intergenerational discipleship is it always has to start just like wherever you got, just reach down and make that the normal precedent. And so even that's a bit of a pitch for when we talk some about generational or intergenerational discipleship. It'll be a future conversation, Lord willing.
Well, and that feeds back into what you were saying of like everyone has something to share. It's like a 30-year-old has things to share with a 28-year-old. The 28-year-old has things to share with the 23-year-old. The 23-year-old can help the 20-year-old. And the 20-year-old can help a 17-year-old. Like,
and a 17-year-old can help a 50-year-old.
It's so true. Like, it goes all the way down and it balloons back out. Like, it's all over the map. Like, we just need others to learn from all the time.
That was one of the things that struck me doing student ministry. We went on a service trip to New York City, and I was just so humbled by how some of the students served. And it was like, oh man, like it's just so cool. Like I'm not the omnicompetent youth pastor doing this. It's like I'm learning from the students, and there's a discipleship that's happening there.
Oh yeah, in every relationship I've had with a woman, she teaches me something.
Yeah.
Despite the age, like, yeah, that's the body of Christ. We learn from one another, and we need one another in all walks of life.
Well, and that's like even church's family. It's like we want to treat each other with love and care and interdependence. Like not that there is something just to be said for like, well, no, the spiritual mothers and fathers, they're the ones that care for everyone else. I think that's true to a certain extent, but it's the children that often are caring for parents as well in really important ways. That it's like, yeah, we need to be able to do that. We need to be able to accept that, like, as the older generation of our church already. But like, and encourage that and be really delighted when it happens. So I think it's just really sweet and encouraging to think about. Yeah.
You want to wrap us up, Patrick?
Yeah. Any other last questions, thoughts?
No.
That's great. Tina, thanks so much for coming on today. Sorry it was different than our plan.
It's great.
But again, we're praying Hannah feels better.
Exactly. Well, I'm excited to be on again with Hannah.
Yeah.
That'll be the dream.
And other topics too. I love the discipleship and other topics.
Oh, yeah. You're the best. Whenever I think I need a question answered the right way, it's like I can talk through Mark and get like the theoretical right way, and then like often it is the right way to like share it with a person is after I've talked to Tina about it. It's just like how my brain ends up working. So I'm just so grateful for both of you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming on, and we'll hopefully see you next week.